It is a very simple thing, but people want to do business with health. People want to do business with government. So they will not put in measures in place which Manyora would put if he was president. Why would you go to India? In fact, Indians would come here. Let me tell you, people who go to India sometimes come back with very interesting stories. They tell you, you thought it was a big hospital, only to find it's a house like this one Manyora is staying in. Nobody in this country has talked about theft of public property more than Manyora in this country. I want to see one person in public space who has talked with the courage to say, for example, all these billionaires are thieves.
And you're just in time for yet another edition of Business Glide here on Herman Manyora's channel. My name is Richard Mwenja. Barely a week ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta delivered his 8th State of the Nation address that not only touched on governance issues but also the performance of various sectors of the economy. Have we made any meaningful progress as well as substantial gains? Besides, in as much as gratitude is the pathway to abundance, why are majority Kenyans feeling the government isn't looking into the economic suffering? To bring this conversation home, I'm joined by a man who needs little introduction. He's the most sought-after political analyst in Kenya, as well as a renowned public scholar in Eastern and Central Africa. I'm talking about Herman Manyora. Sir, welcome on set.
Thank you, and the accolades are too many.
No, I mean, but that's what the Kenyans
I'm
say.
telling you, I'm a very simple and a small man. Okay, let's continue, Bas.
All right. Last week, President Kenyatta was all over the moon with the ranking of Kenya as being the 6th wealthiest country in Africa. And he said that he took the administration while the country was ranked at position 12. Now, if you look at this in terms of size, by GDP, that's the total output of an economy per year, we actually are position 6. But countries that really are keen on improving welfare look at it at how much of this output has been distributed across its citizens. That's the income per head. Shouldn't we as a country be looking at it from that angle, or rather start with?
You know, these are figures from institutions that we want to trust, World Bank and the rest. And if the rankers are 6th,
wealthiest,
I would, why not first? But at least we are moving somewhere. It's good, something to celebrate. I joined the president celebrating. But like you said, the bottom line ought to be, whatever figures you come up with, does it translate to happiness on the ground? Are Kenyans feeling that? If you say the economy has grown, are Kenyans feeling it? If you feel the economy created jobs, are the jobless people feeling it? Are they seeing the jobs? Is the economy being felt in the pocket? That is where the challenge is.
All right, sticking to that, the president has a mandate to inspire the country. And he was on the front of really pushing for us to be resilient enough. However, Kenyans are saying, in as much as the president is trying to inspire us, his inspiration should be in touch with the suffering at the ground level. It must resonate with our socio-economic challenges. Do you read from the same script?
Yeah, of course. It's not enough to say we are doing well. People must feel it. And Kenyans are suffering, and they're justified to complain. But the president also has a responsibility to be honest with Kenyans. But what I've always argued is he must create hope.
All right.
Whatever you say must be an attempt to create hope. Let Kenyans know the suffering we are going through can be mitigated, will be mitigated, and the country is doing something about it. The government is doing something.
All right.
But we are not the only ones suffering. That is not coming out clearly. That, in as much as we are suffering, some of these things are beyond the Kenyan government, beyond Uhuru Kenyatta, beyond even Corona. These are some of these things are global trends and happenings over which an individual country may have very little to say. But there are many things the government can do which it is not doing.
All right.
Yeah.
The president eluded the coverage on grand corruption in his administration. We have seen no single high-profile convictions, and even the 1 and 2 that has been there, it has been awash with a lot of circus in play. Why will the president, at this particular time, not really address this subject to the fullest? Grand corruption.
Yeah, in fact, it's part of his obligation during his State of Nation address to report to Parliament his government's effort in fighting corruption. He was a little short on that. But generally, I'm not convinced that despite the efforts government has made towards fighting graft, I'm not convinced we are making sufficient strides that we are about to handle this corruption. I'm not convinced.
All right.
Yes.
Majority of Kenyans are saying that in as much as the State of the Nation address shouldn't be addressing the level of satisfaction in every Kenyan, but the president ought to have delved into issues such as unemployment, matters to do with the corruption and so forth. So if at such a particular critical time he cannot address unemployment in the Kenyan economy, isn't that a case of a failed presidency?
You know, these things are easy when you see them from outside. But when you are inside, then you realize how difficult it is. Uh, when you talk of failed economy, when you talk of a failed state, when you talk of a failed government, you must also be aware that many countries cannot even do half of what this country is doing.
All right.
You know, basically, we may complain as much as we want, but you go to bed secure that nobody will come and butcher you. At least, of course, there's crime, but it's not runaway crime like in other countries. We have civil servants who receive their salary. It may not be much. They receive it every month. You get what I'm saying? Institutions are working. You can't say this about all countries. So even as you say the country has failed, you must do so with moderation. You must know serious stuff is happening in the country. But we could do better, and we must do better. But to dismiss what the government is doing,
all right.
Yeah, that's what I think is wrong.
Led by Uasin Gishu Women Rep Gladys Boss-Sholei and majority of Kenyans, they are saying that increased spending is not an indicator of success, but the president has been on the forefront talking of how much he has increased budgetary allocation to the health sector from roughly 30-something billion to over 120 billion Kenya shillings. Now, do you feel as a country we should be looking at now the success indicator rather than just how much we've spent?
You know, there are 3 stages, I think. The policy stage, in which you plan what you want to do. And then you mobilize resources as the second stage. The success can only come at the 3rd stage. You can't expect success at the planning stage. Of course, it will inform the planning and the policy. But you can't see it. You must to plan, come up with policy and the strategy to implement that policy, then mobilize resources and direct those resources at achieving those targets. And then only then can we look at success. Why do you want to look at success at the 1st stage or the 2nd stage? It's not possible. Look at the infrastructure development. You cannot feel it now. This infrastructure development the government is engaged in will be felt some years to come. The failure of government is to balance how much to do now, how much to borrow, how much burden to give the future generations vis-a-vis the current generation. The failure of government is in communicating what it is doing to the people. That's where the failure is.
But some are arguing some projects have been dead on arrival, talk of universal health coverage, even with increased budgetary allocation.
But you see, I hold a different view in terms of universal health. I see it as useless. But those who are criticizing the president are saying they will improve universal health coverage through NHIF.
I see.
Those who are criticizing him. Even those who are not criticizing, like Raila, are saying they will improve on it. Manyora is different. I want to dismantle it. So I want to see a presidential candidate who says the universal health coverage as conceived cannot work and will not work. That NHIF, like I've said repeatedly, is a fraud. So long as they are still just within the confines of UHS and within the confines of NHIF as the implementer of universal health coverage, they will fail. It can't work.
But how is it a failure yet? President was on the forefront saying it has moved from 4 million members to over 10 million.
That is, if you go to, as Kenyans are selling everything they have to take people to hospital. So it has failed. It is a very simple thing, but people want to do business with health. People want to do business with government. So they will not put in measures in place which Manyora would put if he was president. In other words, I will simply take all this money, take it to public health care system, improve our hospitals, pay health workers well, doctors, nurses, and other paramedics, pay them well, train more of them, improve the existing hospitals and dispensaries and health centers, and build more.
All right.
And let Kenyans just walk there free and get treated like it's done in other countries.
So are you signaling with Manyora as the president will see less visits to India for treatment?
Why would you go to India? In fact, Indians would come here. Let me tell you, people who go to India sometimes come back. It's very interesting stories. They tell you thought it was a big hospital, only to find it's a house like this one Manyora is staying in. That's where the doctor is, and with 4 beds.
Yeah,
they only deliver you to the hospital for a surgery, if there's surgery. Then you come back here. Or even go to a hotel. They don't even have the infrastructure, the way we think.
All right.
In other words, we have what it takes to give first quality, first class health care in this country, so that nobody can go out. If I'm the president, let me tell you, all private hospitals will close.
All right.
Why would anybody go there?
Do you feel the biggest problem facing Kenya is an economic problem rather than a political stability, as was highlighted by President Uhuru Kenyatta?
The problem in this country is leadership. And the leadership is about politics. Once we sort out our politics, everything else will fall in place. That's why I was supporting BBI as an idea. Of course, there were things in BBI I didn't like. And those I liked, but were put there badly. But as an idea of re-engineering our politics, as a way of pushing this country to the next level, including economically, we need to fix the politics.
Political conmanship.
Yeah, no, not the conmanship. Just fix the politics.
All right.
Yeah.
The president was on record talking about military takeover of some of the key agencies, talk of Kenya Meat Commission. And particularly on Kenya Meat Commission, he reported of it having moved from making a paltry 8,000 Kenya shillings per day to over $1 million per day. So that translates to about 360 million in a year. But President was on record saying that KMC now collects 3.6 billion. Is it misquoting the figures, or rather doctoring his scorecard just to look better before the public?
2 things. Number one, there's no military takeover. Military were given an assignment. They didn't take over.
All right.
You can use the military, and it happens in other countries. In America, we have what they call Production Act, in which you can mobilize the military, the armed forces, to do certain civilian tasks. Now, so it's not a takeover.
All right.
Number two, there was this debate, serious debate, I think on Citizen TV. I tweeted that my tweet was not read. 8,000 per day, 1 million per day, 360 million per year, 3.6. The way I look at it is possible it's an error. It could have been 360 million. But again, as I tweeted, there is a difference between profits. So profits could have been 8,000 per day, moved to 1 million per day. So profits moved from 8,000 to 1 million
per day.
But there is something else called turnover. I don't know if you get it.
Yeah, true.
The turnover of the factory of KMC could be the 3.6 billion. The turnover. There's a difference between turnover and the profits.
I see.
So the speechwriter could have mixed. But since 3.6 looks like 360, it's possible it's an error. But again, you could also be saying you have improved things in the sector so well, it has the potential of 336 billion, 100 billion. So the figures are in terms of, one, the profit, different from turnover, and cumulatively different from the potential of the industry, of an industry.
All right.
Those figures and those concepts must be well understood.
All right. On matters economy, Prof, how will you read the scorecard of Jubilee government in a scale of 1 to 10?
I think I will give them 5. Because the country is not underwater.
All right.
We are afloat. We are able to breathe. But remember, it's only the mouth and the nose that is out above water. The body is submerged in the water. We need to get out of the water because we'll catch pneumonia.
All right.
Yeah.
There are some Kenyans who are saying that Herman Manyora is Uhuru Kenyatta's mouthpiece. Perhaps why you haven't really delved into the subject of corruption with the zeal that you always attack others. Is it true?
No, people don't get me right. I focus on a particular thing. And I'm on record on matters of corruption. Nobody in this country has talked about theft of public property more than Manyora in this country. I want to see one person. in public space who has talked with the courage to say, for example, all these billionaires are thieves.
But
I said it many years ago. The clip is circulating. I still say it.
All right.
And I've even said in the last show with you, I think, it is me more than anybody else who is at the forefront of talking about corruption. I have said repeatedly that you need one man in State House and everything changes.
But they say you address panaboys of corruption, not the grand mullahs of corruption.
No, don't isolate people. I have addressed that issue already. I've given my idea, you remember, I've given my idea of how to deal with the issue of corruption. And I've said to me it is more productive to stop corruption by making it difficult for you to steal. Put in place measures that will make it difficult for anybody to steal.
I see.
And then punish those who, even if you put that sieve, a few people will still go through the sieve. You get? Punish them like in China. What more could I say?
All right. Well, that takes us to the wrap of conversation here on Business Glide. But before we leave, we go all the way to Berlin, Germany. Our fan of the week, Godwin Kinuthia.
Godwin Kinuthia from Berlin, Germany. I remember the fall of the Berlin Wall. Thank you very much for being part of us, for joining our family. Greet Germans and Kenyans in Germany, and tell them to subscribe.
Well, that's where we close our conversation today, touching on matters economy and put into context what President Kenyatta covered in his State of the Nation address. Well, until next time on Business Glide, my name is Richard Mwenja, but stay glued because coming up on your screen is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.